is the foundation of Camp Widow and Soaring Spirits Canada. Our programs are entirely run by widowed volunteers, and I'm honored to work alongside so many dedicated individuals. Your spirit of giving back ensures that widowed people can find connection and community through Soaring Spirits Canada. It speaks volumes about this organization and this event, so that so many of you have chose to pay it forward. And here's my little volunteer plug. If you're interested in getting involved, please visit our information table in the foyer or talk to a board member or a regional leader. Thank you, volunteers.
Thank you, Beverly. I've got some notes. There we go. As you know, tonight is our themed, and there go the glasses, is our themed banquet, a message in a bottle. Does that sound familiar to you guys? Was there a song? It'll take place at 6:30 in this room. And it's a come as you are. I know some people have got costumes ready, which is cool. Looking forward to seeing that. But if you don't have it, don't worry about it. And if you're someone who does not consent to having your photo published, please ensure that you are wearing your red lanyard tonight so that we know not to take a picture of you. Are you thinking about going to Camp Widow Calgary in September? Yes. Okay, great. We've got a few people going so far. Maybe you've noticed our Calgary board out in the foyer. If you're thinking of going and want to meet others, maybe see if someone will share a room with you. Please meet at the Calgary table at the beginning of lunch today. You start coordinating everything. Please remember to rate your workshops. We rely on your feedback to make our programming better for you. You can do this online when you scan the QR code on the back of your card. It does work. And there will be a paper form from your room monitor as well. Just a reminder that all donations to Soaring Spirits Canada will be made before Sunday, will be matched by a generous donor. Now is the time to make a donation towards future camps that have that donation double, or QR codes are placed around the room and in the foyer. We also have a hashtag for this weekend. It's hashtag Camp Widow Toronto 2026 if you're sharing photographs. A reminder that there is a program change. Linda Shanti McCabe, whose presentation was Goddess of the Underworld using myths and archetypes to eliminate the path of grief, was scheduled to speak at 3:45 today and was not able to make it, so try and make other plans. And now I get to introduce Julie now. But just a reminder that Tobis Investments has sponsored today's keynote. Yeah. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Julie Martella. I first met Julie in Toronto in 2022. She left an impression on me immediately, not for just how incredibly organized she is, but for the warmth she radiates, and she's the kind of person who makes you feel truly seen before a single word is exchanged. Julie knows our journey firsthand. As a widow of 9 years, she has walked through profound loss while managing a family farm and raising 2 daughters. She doesn't just understand the complexities of widowhood, she lives them. What makes Julie truly remarkable is how she channels that experience into her work. With a background in curriculum development and a deep passion for organizing and productivity, she offers something rare, a beautiful blend of empathy, practical solutions that actually work. She's the author of 2 books, I Wish There Was Something I Could Do, and The Weight of Our Things. She's the creator of Navigating Widowhood blog and podcast, where she helps widowed people thoughtfully organize their lives and possessions in a way that honors their past and welcomes their future. Her approach weaves together innovative tools, structured frameworks that help you navigate grief and begin rebuilding on your own terms. Please join me in welcoming Julie Martella. Permission to live, Julie Martella.
All right. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What a pleasure to be up here today. Okay, we turn that off. Let me get my notes out and ready. All right. Before we begin, I want to ask you a question. I might be dating myself. Does anyone remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books from childhood? Oh, yes. Okay, so for those of you that don't know these books, I was also told by a friend of mine who likes to play video games that these are like video games in which you go into a room and you have to make decisions. I never made it past Pac-Man, so I don't know. But what happens in these books is you go on an adventure, and it's written in the, I believe it's second person, like you are doing this and you are doing this. And I was delighted this weekend because I actually found one in the bookstore, considering it's a 1979 copyright date. So in this book, you're a spy. And you read the book, and then at the end of the page, it'll give you a decision. And so, for example, I just want to make sure this is a very important part of the speech, so I want to make sure we're all on board. So for this one, it says, if you vault out the window and run for it, turn to page 76. If you stand your ground, turn to page 75. Oh, by the way, both of which are widow options also. So, what I would like to say, and I'm going to use this as a framework today, is that I didn't know it then, but in the 5th grade, my teacher would read these books after lunch, and we'd lay our heads on our desk, and the teacher would say, we'd get to the decision, and the teacher would say, okay, which one are we going to do? And we would give it thumbs up if we wanted to do it, thumbs down if that wasn't a good choice. We'd make our decision and have our adventure. I didn't know it then, but those books were actually really good preparation for widowhood. Because what do we have to do in widowhood? We have to make a lot of decisions. And we're on an adventure we never wanted to have. So anyway, I want you to just keep that in the back of your mind as we're going through our stories today. And I'm going to tell you some stories today, and I'm going to read to you from a journal because I would write myself letters. I have you'll hear about later, I have a significant brain dysfunction, and so I have a hard time remembering things, so I would write them down. If I could write it, then I could understand it. So I'm going to be reading to you, we're going to be talking, and I'm going to tell you some stories. First story. On the day my husband died, I vividly remember standing in front of my window and looking out across the way. And where I live on a 1-lane dead-end road out in the country with 4 houses in total on the road. And I remember looking out across the road and looking over to this side, to this house, and the woman was a widow. And I thought to myself, oh, maybe she will tell me what to do. So I'm looking at that house and I'm observing it, and I'm noticing that the barn is falling apart, the grass is dead, that grief has moved into that house and taken over. And I thought to myself, that's not going to be an option. I can't do that. Now what am I going to do? So I look over across the way to the other house across the street. Oh, and by the way, she was a widow too. Maybe she can give me a clue as to what I was supposed to do. And this house was an old dairy barn in an old farmhouse, and in its heyday they milked cows and there was a feedlot. And now that dairy barn had broken out windows, tires, things were broken down. The woman had left and moved into town, as she should. She was an older woman. And I remember thinking, I can't do that, right? How am I choose your own adventure? Thumbs down. I am still young and I have kids to raise. I can't just let everything die. And so I stood there and I had a moment. I don't know if you guys have had these moments of hyper-focus. And I stood there and I thought, and I ran the numbers in my head. And I thought, all right, this is what we're going to do. Let's think about this. I have an orchard. My husband was a farmer. I have this orchard. I have trees. If I don't water the trees, what happens? They die. If the trees die, I have no money. If I have no money, I can't pay the bills. If I can't pay the bills, I lose my farm, which is also my house. If I lose my house, I lose the only home my daughters have ever known. Right? Therefore, failure was not going to be an option. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew in that moment I was going to figure it out. And this is the story of how I did that. This is a story of how I did that and a story of what you can get from that. So, to really begin this story, we need to rewind and go back to the 3rd grade where my great love story began. And I went to Catholic school, and at this Catholic school, there was a little girl who was usually writing lines at recess because Irish nuns and talkative little girls don't mix well together. And there was this little boy who was ginger-haired, freckled-faced, severely myopic, and may have been fed a steady diet of cherry Kool-Aid and chocolate milk. And he and I went to school together. And when I wasn't inside writing lines, we would play kickball because the nuns had decided that kickball was a proper activity for children, and that is what we would do every recess. Right? Who can relate? Can anyone relate? All right. We'll have therapy later. No. So we grew up. We had parallel lives. I was in high school taking honors classes. I was leaving the area never to return. He was ditching classes to go to work early at the farm. And somehow we got back together. We married, and I became the farmer's wife, which I was not well prepared for. Because, let's be careful there. Because I believed that town ended at the last house, right? Because after the last house is dirt. And right? And why would you go to the dirt? Well, that's a different place. My husband, he lived in the land of the dirt, and he visited town. So when we got married, my stepfather laughed hysterically, and he's like, "You have no idea what you're getting into." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Of course I do." No, I didn't. So, but we made it work. And as you can imagine, our marriage was an interesting blending. There was lots of rules for me to learn, and I usually forgot them almost as quickly as I was told them. But we made it work, right? We made it work. He was the farmer, I was a teacher, and life was moving along well. If we were having a little choose your own adventure, like I was doing the pages pretty good. Until one day, when my daughters were still toddlers, so like 2007 maybe, I went to school one day. I had this little kid I called my front row Joe, my special friend. And he was actively sick. I got sick. Long story short, I ended up with a brain injury, and my career abruptly ended. It is not the kind of injury that you could see from the outside, but it was the kind of injury that rewires everything on the inside. So my memory, my processing, my ability to do the job that I had built my identity around. I survived, which was great news, right? Thumbs up. Yeah! But the harder news was that I now had what I could only describe as a broken brain, and my career as a teacher came to an abrupt end. And Jason, my farmer, my partner, the man who lived in the world of dirt, became my caregiver, my memory keeper, my wrangler. And he learned my new limitations before I knew my limitations. And he held the guardrails steady while I slowly learned to do everything again. right? And I have to tell you that one morning, the girls, my daughters told me this much later in life, that I didn't even know that he was in the background behind me doing this while I was bouncing along. I would make the kids lunch every morning, and apparently he would come in after I'd made them lunch and he would fix it and then send the kids on their way. And I never knew it. He quietly worked in the background, and I was like, I'm doing it. And he was like, yes, you are. Right? So part 3, the reckoning of my life came, actually will be 9 years on June 9th. At 7:45, I was married. At 8 o'clock, I was a widow. I know some of you in here had sudden death, and you can relate. I was left with 2 daughters, a broken brain, and a farm that didn't know how to run itself without the guy that made all the thousands of decisions every day. And let's be clear, I was not the farmer. I did not visit the land of dirt. I stayed in the house, I stayed inside of the parameters, and I took care of the kids. And I took care of the house as best I could. I didn't know how to run irrigation systems. I didn't know how to drive a tractor or spray chemicals or make decisions about livestock and crops, all of which we had. And they were things that Jason did effortlessly every day. And that broken brain I mentioned, it was still there. It didn't leave when Jason died. It was running in the background, except now there was no wrangler. There was no memory keeper. There was no one to hold the guardrails steady. There were just 2 teenage daughters watching me for cues about whether the world was going to be okay. I was completely wrong for this job, but for some twisted reason, I was the only person who could do it. And so, I did what any completely naive, unqualified, recently widowed, brain-injured farmer's wife would do. I got to work. So, the first year of farming was a blur, and I'm sure that many of you can relate to the first year of widowhood, right? We are surviving. So my surviving, I had the my beautiful initiation into grief was, hey, let's go bury your husband, and then we got to go change water. Because trees don't care, crops don't care what's going on, right? They just need to be cared for. However, that gave my brain focus. It gave me a job, it gave me something to do. So the first year was pretty blurry, and I woke up. This was my life the first year. I woke up when our rooster Napoleon, he was a little guy, when our rooster Napoleon started crowing in the morning, I woke up and I went to bed shortly after the sun went down, and anyone who was hanging out with me last night got to see that in action, because I was like, I got to go to bed, sun's going down. I had Cheerios. I had a steady diet of Cheerios and berries for dinner because I was too tired to cook. I took naps in between irrigation sets because I would do irrigation, or I would drive the tractor in the morning and do those things. And in the spaces in between, I tried to remember to be a mother, because I still had these girls. That needed me, and the girls were now in high school. And so they were at that kind of angsty age, and they needed a dad. And I was trying to be, right, as many of you, right? We were trying to be the mom and the dad. So I tried to do that. How did I survive these first few years? I survived because I had a village. And you need to make sure that you have a village. And I don't care if your village looks like the Bad News Bears. Right? It doesn't have to be pretty. You just need a village. In my village, so these are the guys, these are the people that kept me going. I had my neighbor, so my neighbors are Keith and Renee, and my neighbor had actually gone to kindergarten with my husband. So they had literally spent their entire lives together. And he just took me under his wing. And Keith taught me how to drive the tractor. And usually I was crying and saying, I can't do that, I can't do that. And he would say, yes, you can. You're gonna get out there, this is what you're gonna do, now go get to work. And I would get to work. His wife, Renee, she would feed us because my kids apparently got tired of Cheerios for dinner. So she would say, why don't you guys come down for dinner? And we'd have real food, like a meal. I had this guy named Guy, what a great name, right? A guy named Guy. And Guy was a tree whisperer. And he said, Julie, I can help you keep your trees alive. Just do what I tell you. And so every week, he came out and he gave me a list. And he said, this is what you need to do. And if any of you know me, you guys know I like a list. And I did. All I had to do was whatever he told me to do on that list. And then I had a friend named Laurie who came to just sit with me on the swing and witness my grief. And she just sat there. That was her whole job. And it was an important job. And then I had one more person. I had this guy named Jake, a friend named Jake, and he took over. Jake was very handy with fixing things, and he liked animals. And my daughter liked showing animals. So he took over my daughter and the animal projects. And so Jake and Allie did stuff with animals, and then he would come out and fix all the stuff that I broke. And I would make him pinky promise. I was like, you can't tell anyone I did this. We would pinky promise. He would fix all the stuff that I broke. And that was my village. And so with these people, I was able to scrap it together and make it through those first couple of years. Now, the other thing that happened, the other piece, and I'm sharing with you later, is that I found a poem. And in those first few months of grief, I couldn't read. I used to be a voracious, can anyone relate? I used to be a voracious reader and I can barely string 4 words together. Okay, thank you. But what I discovered was I could read poetry, because poetry has all of the extra stuff stripped away. And so I found this poem by Mary Lee Hall, and I read it, and then I read it again. And then I took a Post-it note, and I wrote this poem down on a Post-it note, and I folded it up, and I put it in my pocket. And every time I was out working and doing anything that made me afraid, which, was all the time, I would take this poem out of my pocket, and I reduced that poem down to 2 lines, and 2 phrases of 2 lines. And number 1, it said, for my sake, turn again to life and smile. So every time I had to do something scary, I was like, okay, I got this, right? And then the second phrase was, nerve thy hand and trembling heart, right? Okay, and I would sit there and I'm trying to run the tractor, or I'd have to mix. I got my, it's called your PCA applicator's license, where you can mix the chemicals. And I always felt like Dexter's laboratory, and I was always trying to mix them. Nerve thy heart, right? Nerve thy heart and trembling hand. Don't blow this up. And so I carried that poem in my pocket. And when I was scared, I got it out, and those words got me through. And as long as I could do those 2 things, then I was convinced that everything was going to be just fine, right? I held on for dear life. And I did that for 3 years. And I ran the farm for 3 years with various levels of support. So one evening, let's fast forward. We're going to fast forward to, I don't even know what the year was anymore. Anyone relate? You don't know what the year is. You just know there was this gap of time, and then something happened, right? Don't ask me what day we're on or the day of the month. I know we're almost to June. We're about it. So we're going to fast forward to the fall. We're going to October. And my older daughter, Mary Beth, her father named her, by the way. Mary Beth was off to college. She finished high school. She was off. My little bird was off to college. Golden. My younger daughter, Allison, or Allie, Allison likes to tell me I'm only Allison if I'm in trouble. So call me Allie. Allie was now a senior in college, and Allie had the privilege of being a homecoming princess. And I don't know how many of you live in a small rural town, but homecoming princess and Friday Night Lights is a whole thing. And so that evening, Allie got to be in the homecoming princess parade. And she got to get dressed up, and she had a sash, and she got to ride on the back of an old car. And her cousin was one of the nominated princes. And so she got to ride with her cousin, and they got to ride around the track at the halftime of the football game, right? And your only job as a parent is to be there, right? We have no other job. Our job is to be there and go like this. Hi, take a picture, right? That was our only job. And I was there. And I was doing my job. I was being the mom, right? I was being the mom, and I was there. And then my alarm went off. And that alarm meant it was time for me to go be the dad, because now I had water to change. And so I left. And I left the homecoming parade, and I drove back to the farm, put on my rubber boots, put on my flannel shirt, got out my valve wrench, which is how you open and close the valves. And of course, the water wasn't ready, because the water has to get to a certain point, and when you set your alarm, you're estimating. You're like, I think it'll be ready then. The water wasn't ready, so I didn't get to run back, change the water, run back, right? I didn't have that luxury. I'm waiting on the water, And then I get a phone call, and it was Allie's tennis coach, who was also a farmer friend and a mentor. And he was like, Julie, where are you? Your daughter is looking for you, and you're not here. Where are you? She's mad. Ooh. If you have experienced the wrath of a high school girl, okay, I was in trouble. She was mad. So I stood there in the orchard, and I realized that my daughter was standing in the crowd at her homecoming parade, searching for her mother's face, and I wasn't there. Because I was standing in a field changing water, trying desperately to keep the life of a dead man going. Somehow, this had become my life. I had held myself to Jason's standards, and my brain had played a quiet game, and the quiet game was, if I keep everything the same and I don't let anything break, then it'll be fine, right? I'm not going to let anything be broken, and I played this game. But the problem was, right, he wasn't there. The truth was that I was holding everything in place just in case he came back. But because I didn't know how to be. I didn't know how to do this life without him. And so I worked really, really hard. And unfortunately, that night, I was so busy holding things together and doing what he needed to do that I wasn't a mother for my daughter. That night, my daughter didn't need a farmer. She needed her mother. And honestly, I had quit being a mother. I had become the girl who keeps everything together. I had lost Julie. I didn't even know who Julie was anymore. And I think maybe a few of you can relate. I finally cried that night. You know, the big, ugly, snotty-nosed cry. I sat down in the dirt and I cried. I cried for Jason. I cried for the life that we didn't get to have anymore. I cried for my daughters. I cried because I didn't know what to do and I didn't know how to live, and yet I had this whole damn life ahead of me and I don't know what to do. But then, when I was done crying and I was sitting in the dirt and I was exhausted, I had an epiphany. I realized that I was surviving, but surviving and living are two very different things. And I had become really, really good at surviving, but I had completely forgotten how to live. You see, survival is necessary, right? Survival is real and it's brave, and it is your primitive brain taking over, and your primitive brain saying, something really bad happened, and so we're going to kick you into survival mode to make sure you survive. And so survival, in my brain, survival is like a bridge. And survival gets you from the really bad thing over back to normal or back to your future. Survival's the bridge. The problem is, I had made the bridge my home. And the bridge is never meant to be the home. My friends, are you surviving or are you living? Have you given yourself permission to survive? Right? I told myself, okay, if I have to do this life, I'm just going to survive. I'm just going to do it. It has to be done. That's surviving. Have you given yourself permission to live? Because surviving and living are two very different things. No one else is going to give you permission, okay? No one is going to tell you that it's time, you're good. No one's going to hand you a sign that says you've grieved enough, you've suffered enough, and you've waited long enough. Only you can give yourself permission to inhabit this life that you did not ask for, but you have been left with. Okay? You did not ask for this life, but you have been left with this life. And I am telling you, you have the choice of moving right off the bridge of survival and running towards the life that kind of is the great unknown. It's your future. But you have to want to move. And it's scary. And it's scary because we get really comfortable. Who feels like, yeah, I'm doing survival well, right? We get really good at survival. If you had a little drone and you looked at my bridge, I probably had like a little couch and a mini TV and a little refrigerator down there. I was good. I was like, yeah, I'm good. But there's more, right? There's more. This surviving is not what it's supposed to be. There is living. And that night in the orchard, I realized I need to live. I don't need to survive, right? My husband is gone. He's not coming back. Me holding everything together it's just prolonging suffering. It's not promoting living. So for me, moving to the other side and off the bridge meant acknowledging that my husband is actually not coming back. Even though I cognitively knew, like how many of us cognitively know they're gone, but yet we're like, but I'm going to keep everything the same just in case they come back and do like a spot check, I'll be good. Right? Like he's going to be like, okay, that's good. Hey, go fix that over there, right? They're not coming back. And so instead of being worried about the spot check, I need to begin being worried about what does this life look like, and is it serving me? Because I'm keeping his life going, not mine. And so I decided, like I said, that I was moving forward. And it meant acknowledging he's not coming back. It meant acknowledging that this life is not a temporary state, and it's not something I just have to get through for a while. And that's a great game that our brain plays with us. It's like, just do this, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. We're just going to do this for a little bit, it'll be fine. And it meant acknowledging that I didn't know how to do life without him, and I was going to have to figure it out. That night, I knew I needed to learn how to live. I had living daughters that needed a mother and had an entire life to live because I was a young widow. And for the first time, I gave myself permission to build a new life. And it was going to look different. And if my husband came back, he might be like, "What are you doing?" Right? Don't put those tractor implements over there. It's a different life. And we were a pair, right? When you were with your partner, whether it's husband, wife, whatever, long-term partner, we were a pair. And he died, which means, right? He died, so I'm left behind. But that also means that being left behind means I have the privilege of being alive. Right? I have the privilege of being alive. He doesn't have that privilege anymore. And so I needed to give myself permission. If I got to have the privilege of being alive, then I was going to use it. I was going to create a life that honored that. Because all of our loved ones did not get that privilege. So I want to ask you, are you going to survive and stay, which you may need to do? Are you going to make yourself comfortable on the bridge for now? Or are you going to consider the possibility that you can live? That you can move towards a life that is waiting for you. That future life is waiting for you on the other side. If the answer is, "Julie, I am barely surviving today. I am holding it together with duct tape and glue." Oh, and maybe some marshmallows from last night. Then I want you to know I see you and I honor that. Because survival may be all you can do for now. And that's okay. Remember, survival is the protective part of the process. But I want to remind you that you are allowed to want more than survival. You are allowed to want a life. And that means you might be at a page in your own Choose Your Own Adventure book where you have to decide, do I run? Do I build the home on the bridge? Or do I take 17 steps towards my future life? That's your decision today. Now, I decided in typical, I don't know, I guess it's typical Julie style now, I decided if I'm going to have to live this life, right? This is how I did it, right? If I have to do this, then I am going to live a life big enough for both of us. Okay? I'm not just going to live a regular life. I'm going to live a life big enough for the both of us. Khalil Gibran had this quote about the deeper that sorrow carves into your soul, the greater the joy you can contain. Okay? And he's a wonderful, I could have done a whole keynote on him. And I decided, if I had to go through that painful process, that carving of my soul, and it hurt, then I'm going to make it mean something. And I'm going to make sure that the joy that I contain overflows. And so that's what I decided to do. Other people, you may have a different decision. So for me, that meant, I was going to have to be brave. I had gotten really good. My cave was the farm. I had 40 acres to hide out in and be a hermit and only leave when I had to. So that meant being brave. That meant doing scary things. And for me at that time, scary things meant saying yes to a social invitation. I know, shocking, right? It meant feeling all of the feelings that come with building a life. There's a lot of big feelings. And the hardest thing of all was having to say yes to life. Because that's a privilege. Saying yes is a privilege. Jason doesn't get to say yes. And so I decided I was going to say yes for both of us. And sometimes it was me going, no, 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 no. And I've been thinking, okay, he'd want me to do this. Okay, I'm going to have to say yes. Jason didn't get to say yes, so I said yes for him. And I created a life that was big enough for the both of us. It was brave, it was scary, and I said yes. And one day, okay, so I created this life, and then I started working on saying yes and doing the hard things and showing up, okay? And then one day, I was out with my neighbor, and her name, Renee. So Keith and Renee are the pair. And Renee, God bless her, she would go for a walk. She'd come pick me up. Come on, Julie, we're going for a walk, because she knew I needed to get out and talk to humans. And we were going for a walk, and I don't know how many, anyone here in like walk club where you solve the problems of the world and you're walking and you're just going. So we're having our walk, and I started telling her, as I'm saying yes to life, I'm telling her about all the crazy things that are happening, and I'm a natural catastrophizer. Can anyone relate? Okay. Oh wait, you don't even have to raise your hand. You just gotta like give me eyebrows, like yeah. And so when something would happen, I didn't know what to do with it, and so it would just take over my whole day. And we would have walk club, and I would tell her like, oh my gosh, this horrible thing happened, and I don't know what to do with it. And then one day we're having walk club, and I tell her something, and she says, "Bet you didn't see that on your bingo card." I stopped and I said, "What? Say that again." And she said, "Bet you didn't see that on your bingo card." And I paused and I realized she was right. And after that, so we kept on our walk, and I was like, wow, bingo cards, right? And after that, we keep walking, and I started noticing that when something happened, I would start saying, didn't see that on my bingo card. Instead of saying, oh, this horrible thing happened, I don't know what I'm going to do, right? The bingo card gave me perspective. I know it sounds crazy. Practical people need practical solutions. This was a practical solution, huh? Yes, we do, right? So when grief showed up uninvited, when my car got a flat tire, when a kid did something I didn't like, which I'm sure rarely happened, instead of letting it take over, instead of catastrophizing, did I say that right? Okay, excellent. The way I would have when I was living on the bridge of survival, right? In survival, we catastrophize everything because we're keeping ourselves safe. I learned to say, wow, I didn't see that coming. That wasn't on my bingo card. That simple phrase gave my brain order, because a bingo card has squares, right? Lots and lots of squares. So if something is happening, something you don't like, you get to put it in a square, a mental square. And it gets to be witnessed. You get to say, yeah, my car broke down on the freeway. That really stinks. Put it in the square. But guess what? That thing gets one square. It doesn't get your whole day. Right? Can anyone relate? Yeah. It gave me perspective. You know, crazy, I don't know if anyone has crazy relatives, maybe one or two of you, right? When you're like, crazy Aunt Nell's drinking again, you're like, I didn't see that on the bingo card. Or, of course that's on the bingo card. Check. The bingo card gave me perspective. So now I want to tell you something. One day, Renee picks me up. She's like, you need to go for a walk. Fine. And we're walking, and I tell her, I'm like, oh my goodness, this incredible, wonderful, unexpected thing happened. She goes, what do you think she said?
Bet you didn't see that.
I bet you didn't see that on your bingo card. And I stopped. I was like, you know what? You're right. I didn't see that on my bingo card. How dare something good happen on the bingo card? My bingo cards are reserved for all the disasters that could happen. But what I had failed to do is I realized I had been putting all of the disasters, all of the hard things, all of the potential catastrophes on my bingo card. And I'd even been leaving blank spaces open because I was prepared. Right? But I had never once considered that something wonderful, unexpected, joyful, I didn't expect any of those things to happen. I didn't think I got to have those again. I wasn't prepared for those, and I didn't know what to do with those. And I realized, wow, if hard things get a space, then the good things get a space too. Grief and joy on the same bingo card. Right? I could not believe it. Life was never supposed to be one thing, right? Our life as widowed people is not supposed to be, I'm moving on to life, but I don't get to experience joy and happiness again, right? It was never supposed to be one thing. We are allowed to have all of the feelings and all of the mixtures. And I had forgotten that because I'd gotten so good at bracing and surviving. When we leave that bridge and we give ourselves permission to live, we also give ourselves permission to experience joy. Permission to put things on the bingo card that are delightful and wonderful and just for us. Friends, it's okay to want something just for you. Right? I used to feel extremely selfish. It's okay. Now, oh my gosh, do you guys have a bingo card? I want you to get out your bingo card. Can someone bring me a bingo card? I need a bingo card too. We'll give you an extra one. Thank you, Callie. All right. On a bingo card, by the way, thank you, Canada, for printing these for me because I was already at 100 pounds of luggage. On this bingo card, you're going to see two sides. You're going to see permission to live, and I'm going to tell you, don't look at that side yet. I want you to find the side that says surviving loss. Okay. Surviving loss. This is the bridge side, my friends. This is the bridge side of your grief journey. That's the side that takes incredible strength and courage. And I want you to look at the squares. I got out of bed early. I had a griefy day. I ate something. I fed my pets. I had a good cry. Now I'm adding stuff. I rested. If any part of you is living on this side of the card right now, that is enough. And I want you to know that. This is enough because these squares right here, this is the work of grief. They are enough. Some of the squares are blank because while grieving is a kind of an umbrella universal experience, it is also a very individual experience. So what I want you to do, I want you to go home. When you go home, I want you to, I don't know, maybe put this on the refrigerator, maybe you don't. Like when we were kids, right? No gold stars here, by the way. I want you, when something happens, I want you to put it on your bingo card. When you did something, you're like, wow, I finished that paperwork. Put it on your bingo card. Because it deserves, when you put it on the bingo card, you are saying, I see you, I witness you, and you get one square. Okay? Now, everyone turn your card over. Okay, Oh, by the way, leave your cards over. Like, in my surviving lost cards, I might have had to put down there, like, accidentally caught the tractor on fire, right? But we're not telling anybody. Shh, you're going to edit that out. Now, on the permission to live side, let's look at some squares. Oh, number one, most importantly, I attended Camp Widow. Yes, yes. I booked an appointment for self-care. I did something creative, right? Or I read a whole book. One of these for me would have been, I used real dishes instead of paper plates. Anybody? Yes, yes, okay. Okay, and the last one is, I made plans for something in the future. You have the privilege of being alive. You have the privilege and the opportunity to live a life big enough for both of you. It could honor both of you, or it could be a legacy to your love. Every situation is different. But what does that permission look like to you? I want you to notice there's also blank squares on here. And you don't have to fill them in right now, but we're going to do an activity. Are you guys ready? All right. What I want you to do, first of all, you're going to have to listen to 3 instructions. So don't get started till I say go. I gave you a little baggie, and I gave everyone a little pencil, and it is a little pencil, just in case you did not have a writing utensil. And what I want you to do is I want you to talk to your neighbors. And I want you to tell them and brainstorm, what does permission to live look like? What does it look like to you? For someone, they're going to say, that means I get 2 scoops of ice cream. Yay, right? Someone else might say, that means I'm going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Also yay, right? Where this isn't the Olympics, right? Permission to live is a very individual experience. But what I want you to begin to tap into is, what does it look like for you? Okay, that's number 1. So number 1, you're going to brainstorm. And then number 2, I want you to write it. When you think of something, or someone makes you think of something, you go, oh, yes, yes. I want you to write it on a square. And then number 3, if you are comfortable, I want you to share the square with someone in your group, because I want them to be a witness for you. I want them to witness this. If you do not feel comfortable sharing, which is also perfectly okay, then I simply want you to say, I'm here to be a witness, right? And no one's going to bully you, or I'm going to come talk to them. And they'll get detention and miss recess. So, all right, when we are done, and I need to get you back together, I'm just going to say, what's that thing? What is that Canadian thing you did, Agnes? Pop, pop, dun. We're going to start patting our head. We're going to go dun, 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 dun. Oh, try this again. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so what's our 3 instructions? Number 1? Brainstorm. And you're going to talk about, what does permission to live look like for you? Number 2? Dude, you guys are going to have detention. Write it down. Number 3, share it. All right, get to work. Good job. Okay. Okay. No, 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 no. No, no. That's okay. We're good. All right, we're going to do a few more moments. Huh? Like 5. Wow. What? All right. I know it's early. Dun, da, da, dun, dun. Oh, dun, da, da, dun, dun. Dun, da, da, dun, dun. Okay. Shh. All right. Thank you. Let's bring it back together. I know you're not done, but Greg gave me the stink eye. So what I want you to do is I want you to keep talking. I want you to keep the conversation going. I want to hear someone shout from across the room, right? 2 scoops of ice cream. Whatever that means for you. And I want you to settle back in. I want you to look at this room right now. You just did something incredibly brave. You turned to the person next to you, someone who may have been your new best friend of 5 minutes, and you told them truth about your life, about what permission to live might actually look like for you. And I don't let that be a small thing, because it isn't. That's incredibly brave. All right. I kind of want to bring everything back home. I want to bring it back to where it began. 3 houses, 3 futures, 3 pages, and the Choose Your Own Adventure Nightmare Edition. Right? Someone should write that. That probably wouldn't sell well. Except at Camp Widow. House number 1. Grief moved in and took over every nook and cranny. House number 2. Grief moved out and everything came to a standstill and died. House number 3. Me. My farm, my page, my story. Neither house was an option, so I created my own. And I want you to know that you have that choice too. If you don't like the options in front of you, you just make one up. You get to have a new one. I want you to know I still have that orchard. I'm still an unintended farmer, and I still have the orchard. And every year, I am humbled and amazed when it gives me a beautiful crop of walnuts. It is the most humbling process, and I have fallen in love. And I have become one of those people. I think Monica and Stacy could probably attest that when we go somewhere, they're looking at other cute things. I'm like, look at the roots on that tree. Look at the branches, right? I have become that person. I have too many injuries, and the decision was finally, I had to have 4 surgeries after when I took over the farm. And so the decision was made, maybe I should let someone else help me out. And I just couldn't do it. So now I have a young man He's as old as my children, and he's a man, but I think of him as one of my kids. He runs the farm for me. And he loves those trees as much as I do. And the farm is thriving. I have children. I have daughters that one of them's gotten married. I have what I have created is, I can only call the land of women. So I'm on 40 acres out there. I have both of my daughters live with me, and my sister has spent time there, and her daughters have spent time there, and her daughters have spent time there. When we get a random boy child, we're like, oh, what do we do? I don't know. I have a lot of American Girl dolls, but nothing else. We have created a world which I could never have imagined, an intergenerational groove I never could have imagined that, standing at the window the day Jason died. We even let in a man. He is a golden doodle of a son-in-law, and I adore him. And I have to remember, he's not actually my son. He's married to my daughter. The life, my friends, the life that I am living today looks nothing like the life that I planned. It looks nothing like the life that I even envisioned standing at the window the day my husband died. Because the day my husband died, the day the life that I knew it died. But moving across the bridge and doing the work and deciding to live, there was no page, there was no preparation, there was no roadmap. And yet, here I am. I need you to hear this before you leave this room today. You are here in Toronto at Camp Widow. After everything that you have carried, everything that you have lost, everything that you have survived, you are still here. You showed up, you sat in this room. That is a piece of you saying, yeah, I'm giving myself permission. I'm giving myself permission to live, and I want to figure out how to do it. You are allowed to laugh. You are allowed to make plans. You are allowed to want something just for you. And you are allowed to turn towards joy and even make plans for the future. You are allowed to write a page that no one has written before, one that is entirely, completely, and unapologetically yours. There's one more thing I want to tell you. There's something in your baggie. If you get your baggie out, there's a little poem in there. And remember I told you earlier that I found this poem and I stuck it in my pocket and I wrote it on the Post-it note? This is the poem. It's called Turn Again to Life by Mary Lee Hall. And it says, if I should die and leave you here a while, be not like others sore undone, who keep long vigil by the silent dust. For my sake, turn again to life and smile, nerving thy heart and trembling hand to do something to comfort other hearts than thine. Complete these dear unfinished tasks of mine, and I perchance may therein comfort you. My friends, for years I carried this poem in my pocket, and I believed that this poem was telling me how to survive, how to hold on, how to not fall apart, how to keep going when everything in me wanted to stop. I was wrong. This poem was never about survival. This poem tells you how to live. I just wasn't ready to hear it yet. When you were afraid of the life that you were building, and you will be, because building a new life is terrifying, take out that poem, read it, and let it remind you that you get to do more than survive. You are allowed to inhabit this life that you have been given fully, completely, and without apology. Because living is not a betrayal of your love. Living is not forgetting. Living is not moving on and letting go. Living is what you get to do because you have the privilege of inhabiting this earth and being here. And you are here. So go live. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Julie. That was inspirational. Thank you once again, Julie. Really appreciate those words, and I'm sure you've given everybody in this audience something to think about living. Don't go anywhere. We are going to take our group shot now. And just a few reminders of what's going on outside. We do have the banquet tonight. The bookstore is open. Today's the final full day of it. Closes at 4:30. Tomorrow there'll be a condensed version of the bookstore when we have breakfast. I know many of you have gone to the restaurant and the hotel and have experienced a very long, lengthy wait for your orders. They're just not equipped to handle 200 grieving widows in their restaurant. I don't know if anybody is. So there are options outside of the restaurant, 5-10 minute walk. You'll find some fast foods like Subway. There's some sushi places. There's Tim Hortons, Harvey's. Yeah, so if you want to avoid the long, lengthy 2-hour wait for your food, even though you have an hour and a half, take a look at one of those options. I'm sure you'll find some sustenance out there somewhere. Toronto's got something to offer for everybody. With that, let's get some chairs moved from the front because we're going to get a lot of people, some on stage and some up front. So if you want to grab your personal belongings, we're going to clear some chairs, I think, to the left and to the right. So if we can have some volunteers to do that. Yeah, let's go back 3 rows and just clear them all out. Oh, where's that happening? Oh, and there will be a lunch gathering for anybody who's interested in Calgary in the foyer. Pardon? Yeah, just the chairs in the front, guys. First 3 rows to the left and to the right. The rest of them you can leave.